Hi, Stuart Bruce here, and I am the Spare Time Property Investor. In these podcasts, I'm going to share tips, tricks and lessons that I've learned and will hopefully help you, especially if you're still working the 9 to 5. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spare Time Property Investor podcast. Today is an interview episode. I'm joined by AK from The Property Couple. We talk about life coaching, his background in marketing, what he's done so far in terms of training and property, but also he's just going through that transitional phase from having a 9 to 5 job to going full time in property. So it's really interesting to, catch him at this point in his journey. As always, if you get value from this episode, please like it, please subscribe, please share it on your socials as well. It really helps to get the word out there. But without wanting to waste any more time, let's get to the interview with AK. Well, thanks so much, AK, for joining me on the podcast. First off, it would be really great if you could introduce yourself and let us know what you're up to in property.
Brilliant. Yeah, so my name is AK, and as I was saying earlier, it's actually short. It's my initials, so it's Akalaya. So I'm AK. Like I said, I was in the corporate world for the last 12 years, and I've just sort of come out of that now earlier on this year, and I'm starting to make that transition now to do other things in my life. Property investing is a huge part, and I'm also a life coach as well. I'm still doing a little bit of marketing as well, because marketing was my background for the last 12 years. But I think I'll probably sort of slowly come out of that, over the next sort of 12 to 18 months potentially.
That's really interesting. So you're a life coach as well as dealing with your property investments, and you're still juggling some. I think you said, is it 3 days a week you're doing from the kind of marketing side of things to keep the bills being paid, I suppose.
Yeah. Exactly. So look, I think life coaching for me was something that I had my kind of heart set on a few years ago now, and I think I'm quite maybe regimented, maybe quite analytical in terms of I like to understand and have a plan. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I really just wanted to help people, because I felt quite grateful from all the people that have helped me in my life. And I think that as I've kind of grown older, I've just become a lot more aware and a lot more interested, shall I say, in understanding people and humans and psychology and things like that. And I think that's a key, something absolutely key for property, definitely. And something that was, and something that was massively needed to be working full time in a 9 to 5 whilst trying to build a property business as well. So I think it kind of stemmed from that. And I felt like there was a lot of people like myself who weren't necessarily doing what they were passionate about doing, and they either fell into it or they felt like they had to do this job, but really it wasn't fulfilling them. And so I kind of thought to myself, I'd love to help people that are in that particular situation that maybe don't realize their potential, or they don't think they can do it, and really help them do that. And I'm trying to sort of prove that is possible, and help people that were like me a couple of years ago. So that's what I'm passionate about doing. And then alongside that, I do 3 days helping a lettings business startup. And just looking at the brand there and doing things a little differently and making it a very personable brand, because I'm sure how some lettings agencies can be and stuff like that. And so I think it's just bringing that human element back into it. And then also just I do a little bit of support with property education and things like that as well in my spare time. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to juggle. It
sounds like it. Yeah, it sounds like you're juggling quite a few balls there. But that's amazing. And it's amazing to catch you in this transition, actually. So I think it's such an interesting period for people, because obviously there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast and on Instagram and things like that, whose ambition is to step out of the 9 to 5. And obviously you see people who are way down the line, they can't even remember what it's like to have a day job. But then there's people like yourself who are in that transitional phase. So it's great to catch you just as you're going through it, really. So I mean, I want to touch on that in a little minute, but before we forget about it, it'd be really helpful if you could kind of are there maybe 2 or 3 things from your experience as a life coach, dealing with the kind of psychology of people, and how to people how they live their life as well as they can, and things like that? Are there a couple of things you'd say that people should learn about or kind of focus on, or anything like that?
I think one of the key things is surrounding yourself with positivity. So whether that be through material like books, podcasts, and things like that. I think this podcast, for example, is just kind of keeping you close to people that maybe you aspire to, or maybe you don't even necessarily aspire to them, but it's getting that sort of positive energy from those types of people, but also the people you mix with. So one of the biggest things I kind of learned along the way is, and I'm still learning, is that there are people in your life that you are close to, that you love, that can be draining, not because they mean to be draining, but they just are, because you might be in a different headspace. So I'm a very driven individual, and you can see my mood board behind me. It's like I've got this vision, and I don't feel anything will stop me from getting there. And people will try to do that, maybe not on purpose, like I said, but they're not maybe aligned to what and there isn't a right and a wrong, right? But the point is, I started to sort of choose who I would kind of invest my energy with, and things like that. And that becomes difficult, because you love that, you love your family, but sometimes they're not looking at things like how you're looking at them, for example. And sometimes you've got to sometimes maybe limit that. So surrounding yourself with the right people, podcasts, books, those types of things. And something that's massive for me is my meditation, my sort of morning routine. For me, if I don't do my morning routine, I'm kind of out of sync for the day.
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, for me, that's just how I need to start my day. No distractions. I don't have my phone. The first thing I do is I go and sit, and I put my headphones in, and I do 25 minutes of meditation. And just I constantly visualizing my goal, visualizing what my life will be in the future, and I'm focused, and that's kind of like my compass set for the day, and my energy is kind of dialed for the day.
Yeah, amazing. I know a lot of people swear by meditation, and it's not something that I'll run, so I suppose that's kind of similar in some way. I don't know, but that's my excuse. It's not something I've been able to get into. I'm a bit fidgety and stuff like that. But if people wanted to try a bit of meditation, because there's so many people in property and in business and stuff like that who swear by it, but if somebody wanted to just give it a try, are there any sites or anything like that you'd suggest that people go and have a look at? I
actually started using some of the apps. Headspace is a good app. I mean, you have to pay for it, but for me, it was invaluable. So you can do like a free trial. Headspace is a great app. There are other apps out there. I think Calm is another one. And it's guided meditation. And I think, once you're in a position where you feel comfortable with it, you use it anymore. And now I use more visualization techniques. YouTube, you can go onto YouTube and find without adverts and stuff. It's 2 great tools there really that you could use.
No, that sounds really good. Yeah, and I suppose it's like anything. Once you, like you were saying, once you get into it, you can kind of you don't need to rely on the app and stuff so much once you kind of get into the swing of it. And
definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. And look, and like you said, meditation isn't for everyone. It just works for me. Like running might be your thing. Everybody can find their own thing, but for me, I just have an overactive mind, so I just need something to calm myself down and kind of like recalibrate sort of every day.
I think the whole morning routine again is something that's so important that again, so many people swear by, and having that so you set yourself up for the day, it just sounds invaluable really. So that's another great thing for people to kind of be conscious of. Okay, let's get into the property a little bit. So obviously property is one of the things you're focused on. So talk me through what you're up to in property at the moment, just in terms of strategy, that sort of thing.
Yeah, sure. So look, I was in full-time employment, 9 till 5, or longer hours, should we say. and so I only really had sort of Saturday really free to go and sort of do things such as viewings and speaking to agents and that sort of thing. So for me, like, time was massive. So my girlfriend and I, we kind of figured out that we needed, or I kind of said to her, I really want to get out of this day job. So I'd prefer to look at something that was a higher cash flowing strategy to start off with. And then once I was kind of out of the day job, then we could look at, diversifying and, and stuff. So we actually started with HMO, so houses of multiple occupancy. And we worked on a model that we would take sort of a 3-bed terrace house, standard 3-bed terrace house, and we would convert those to a 4-bed, 4-ensuite HMO. And that was our strategy. That sort of remains our key strategy. But it's been sort of 2 years now, so we're now starting to diversify slightly, and we're actually, for the first time, started to look at sort of commercial elements.
Wow.
Yeah, which is massive. I think within 2 years, it's scary. We're pushing ourselves a little bit, but I think we've done a lot of property education as well and stuff like that. So we've got good people around us and good network around us. So we're just taking each day as it comes, kind of thing. But yeah, so we're sort of looking at a development side as well now, alongside our HMO stuff. So yeah.
That's really cool. And how do you find going straight into HMOs? Because obviously the advice people are given a lot of the time is to start off with buy-to-lets, and then once you've gotten used to that, kind of build up to HMOs. Did you find that like a difficult thing to start off with, or did you, with your training and things like that, did you feel confident to go in there and get going?
I'll be honest, I don't think either of us felt confident going in straight away. Definitely not. I'd say it was circumstantial in terms of why we started with HMO. So one was my why was big enough for me that that outweighed the fear.
Yeah.
Because I was so miserable in my job and I was going through various different mental health problems and things like that. I just would have done anything to kind of transition and get out. And so, that based with the particular area we were in, just things kind of aligned, and we thought, right, well, buy-to-let isn't the only option. And there was various hurdles in the way, investment funds, education, all this sort of stuff was definitely in the way, but we overcame those. We're 2 years in and we've learned so much, and we continue to learn so much, like all the time.
That's really good.
All the time.
It's really, I think it's really good for people to hear as well, that if HMOs are what you're aiming to do, you don't necessarily need to go through that first 2-3 years of doing buy-to-lets and to like learn, there is a way through. We didn't start off, we started off with HMOs as well, so it's definitely possible for people to do it. So yeah, that's great. And now you're progressing on to something even more challenging, which sounds scary, but well, obviously, it's a fantastic thing to be doing. You're pushing yourselves, which is always fantastic. So that's really great. You were saying about the area then. Whereabouts are you investing?
Yeah, so we currently invest in the West Midlands.
Uh-huh.
So we were living on the South Coast for the last 6 years, and so pretty much anywhere we were having to drive sort of 5 hours north to get to
Wow.
sort of there's the traditional buy-to-let area, shall we say. So we started off in Stoke. We started our journey there, and every single Saturday, I'd finish work on the Friday and we would drive up sort of halfway, stay over, and then we would get up on the Saturday morning. We would do a full day there in Stoke, and after a few months of that, we kind of thought, where else in the Midlands is there potentially? We started looking around, and we're from the sort of Coventry area, so we started looking sort of locally around where our family are, and realized that the numbers can work for that particular area. And so we just sort of went for it, really. I think I can be a complete overanalyzer, and fortunately my partner Leah, she goes more on her sort of feelings and stuff, so it's quite a good balance, because I think you must know as well, but you can overanalyze something to death, right?
Absolutely.
And so
you're going to take action at some point. So that's a good mix. It's a good mix.
Exactly.
That sounds good, but it's an area you're familiar with, so it's an area you kind of you knew from when you were a kid, and you got family in the area, or is it kind of a local kind of town?
It's local to Leah, so the area is local to Leah. Look, we were both sort of born and raised in the Coventry area, but we both moved away when we were early teens, sort of moved away. She went to school down south, and I went to uni and stuff like that, so we didn't come back to the area until now, so it's been quite a while, but it's not an alien area to us. So you could say it does help, but equally going to different areas, like when we were going to Stoke, that was completely alien to us, because we'd never been there before, but that equally didn't put us off either, if that makes sense.
No, and I think it's definitely one of those things that a lot of people invest far away and have great success, and other people swear by investing local. So it's one of those things, isn't it, where it works as long as you're careful about the properties and getting to know the area enough and things like that. It works. So going back to when you first started thinking about replacing your wage and getting out of the 9 to 5. Obviously, property is one of the things you really kind of wanted to focus on, but why? What kind of got you interested in it in the first place?
So I was looking to move out of. Do you know what? I was looking to move from the place I was currently working, right? And for some reason, I'd had this thing in my head that ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to work for Nike, basically.
Okay.
And I don't know. I don't really know why. It was so specific, but I just remember when I was a kid, I don't know. I loved football, and I loved that brand, and it just stuck with me. Anyway, so I started going on LinkedIn and looking for people that might have worked there, and because I wanted to kind of get in touch with them and just ask, what's it like? Is it can you work there? Like, is it a real place? Because I'd always thought, how on earth do you get into those types of companies? Anyway, and I met a lady who actually was just so helpful, just really wanted to just was happy to just sort of like connect with me and stuff, and we built a good rapport and a good relationship. And anyway, she kind of had like property investor on her like profile, and I didn't really think too much of it, and eventually sort of a few months went by, and she actually kind of I kind of bugged her on it a little bit, just like, what is that? What do you mean property investor? What is that kind of thing? And she kind of told me. She said, look, why don't you go to one of these free seminars? I did it and XYZ. So I went to one of these free seminars, and I think I was just hooked from then. So then I went to do additional 3 days, and then from there I went to do multiple courses and now I've actually gone back to support students that are coming through. So that's what I was saying, earlier, that I do, some of that stuff. So I'll be honest with you, I could just see how that would allow me to achieve the things I wanted to achieve in my life, right? I just saw it as a vehicle to help me do that. And I'm quite a open-minded person. Some people are quite skeptical, and those people aren't really the ones that will do any of those trainings or anything like that. But I think, again, going back to my why was just, I will do whatever it takes at all costs to get to that vision, right? So that's kind of what got me into it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So quite kind of a random way in. You got Nike to thank for it in a way. But that's really cool. So, but the education, it sounds like it's done you wonders. Really, it sounds like you've done really well out of it, and then you're helping other people as well. So you obviously see a great value in what you've learned.
Yeah, 100%. I think, look, it's for me, it's like, you don't, I know, and this is such a cliche term, but you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, of course.
for me, I'm quite a risk averse person. So if people have done something, and this is not necessarily always just property related, just in general, I will look at that person and say, right, like, how has that person got to that place? And I will just extract everything. And that's just kind of like something I've done always. Just if I enjoy something or I want to achieve something, I go direct to the source and I'm like, right, who are the people that have done it? And can I learn from them or can they teach me? So that's just my mentality. I
Yeah.
just really, I really value education.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. And I think there's so many people who spend years trying to do it without any education, making the mistakes and stuff like that. And then there's other people who do the education and really see the benefits of it. And also the networks that people build up from education is something that people often say is one of the most powerful things about it.
Massive. So yeah, I can't speak highly enough about that. It's priceless. So I actually kept in touch, or me and my girlfriend kept in touch with somebody when we first kind of went through the education, and actually now, 2 years later, we're actually sort of business partners. So
Oh wow.
how things turn out, I think, is just a product of networking and that sort of thing. So yeah, and then now I'm sort of setting up as well as part of the education company that I kind of like consult with, um, a Midlands networking event, shall we say. So that's kind of going to push me a little bit as well, kind of out my comfort zone to kind of host that and stuff. So networking is massive. It's such
Yeah,
a powerful tool,
absolutely.
such a powerful tool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you've said about your girlfriend quite a few times, and you've mentioned that she's the one that kind of probably pulls the trigger a little bit quicker, and you're more analytical and stuff like that. But what other benefits are there when you're working with her, and do you kind of where you're not so good, she picks up and things like that?
So this is a strange one because I'm fairly analytical, but I know this is contradictory, but I can rush a lot
Uh-huh.
because um, I have this, like, I don't know what it is. It's like a time pressure. It's like, oh, there isn't enough time in the world, and I need to just get stuff done quickly.
Yeah.
And she balances that out a little bit because she's not like that. So I think, like, she balances me out on that front because she will, double check my work and things like that.
That's
And
good.
and
Good to have.
exactly, and often I make a lot of mistakes. So yeah, she's picked me up on quite a few of those, which is great.
I think it's great to have somebody there that you trust and that can kind of help out the things you're not so good at, and you can help them out in areas where that's so good at. It's a great thing to find in somebody, definitely.
Definitely. What about you with your partner?
Yeah, no, my wife, she's similar in a way. She's very detail orientated, and I'm much more kind of bigger. I'm much happier to think about 5, 10 years ahead, and that sort of thing rather than the nitty gritty. But she's very detail orientated, so that works really well. And then obviously she does the interior design and all that as well. So yeah, she's great. Yeah. So it sounds similar in a way in terms of she's.
It does.
I'll always run stuff past her if I'm kind of doing anything with any great detail. But yeah, no, it's really good having somebody in your life where you can kind of bounce ideas off each other and double check what each other's doing and
Definitely.
stuff like that. Yeah, no, that sounds really good. So you've obviously done really well so far since starting in property a couple of years ago, and you've built up your portfolio, and now you're moving on to different strategies, which is fantastic. And you're also helping other people learn about property. Again, fantastic. You really sounds like you've immersed yourself in it so far. But are there any skills you learned while you're working in marketing you've kind of carried over from that job?
Loads. In all honesty, I think
Yeah.
I honestly feel like the corporate world taught me a lot of skills. So um, and I know this is going to sound basic, but they are key. It's like organization for a start. So, at the end of the day, you're building a business. So organizing your systems and organizing, deal sheets and all of that sort of stuff was fundamental. And so, that was kind of one of my roles, or is one of more of my roles, with Property Couple, is that, systemizing our portfolio and things like that. So, I mean, that's a fundamental thing. And then also communication and dealing with investors and people like that, and just it feeling a bit more, don't get me wrong, it's quite scary at the beginning, but it felt a bit more normal. My girlfriend Leah has always been in the creative space, and she creates content online and stuff. So that wasn't necessarily her like key main skill set, but it came a little bit more naturally to me, just because you're surrounded by having these meetings with various stakeholders and having to present and things like that. So that sort of side came a lot easier.
I do think there's often lots of lessons that people learn from their day jobs, and it's just kind of remembering that sometimes about all those things that you probably don't need to relearn or learn for the first time, because you've already been there, and you've used different systems and stuff like that, which you're very familiar with, and ways of working. So yeah, that's great. Cool. Okay, so have you got any business books that you go back to or you'd recommend to people?
Yeah, so I really rate Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. The reason for that is because it's so true when it comes to property. It's genuinely not a sprint; it is a marathon.
Absolutely.
And sorry, I just laugh at that because I seem to hear that saying more and more as you go into property. But it's just like the small little things every single day, the consistency, and that genuinely was key, definitely like in the first 2 years of what we were doing, and definitely now as well. But I think now as well, I benefit massively from like mindset books, visualization and things like that. So I'm actually reading a book at the moment called You Are the Placebo by Joe Dispenza, which is all about visualization techniques and things like that. And I'm massively interested in it because I just think it's a massively underrated tool that a lot of successful people use, and a lot of people might have some skepticism around it, but for me it just works for me in my mind. So
yeah,
so they're the sort of two books that come to mind.
What was that second one called again? Just so I've got it down.
It's called You Are the Placebo.
Oh wow, okay.
By Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza.
I've heard of him, but I've not heard of that book. So yeah, that sounds really interesting.
It's basically, it's all about the power of the mind.
Yeah,
and it's really interesting.
And especially with your, like you were saying, your interest and your background in life coaching and that side of things as well, the kind of psychology and everything, you putting those two together, business and the psychology, seems to be so important.
Massively. And I'll be honest with you, at the beginning people used to talk about this sort of stuff, and I'll be honest, I used to just not be skeptical, but I kind of was of the attitude, it's like and honestly, the more we kind of go on this journey and progress through this journey, genuinely the more I believe it and the more I feel I need it and work on it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think so many very successful people say about it, and it's for good reason. They're not saying it for the sake of it, are they? So there's genuinely something there. Definitely. So clearly you're a very, very determined person, and you said about your goal, you've got your vision board there and everything like that, but what will life look like once you've achieved your goals?
That's honestly such an interesting question. And actually it was only a couple of weeks ago, I've got some paper here that I wrote a few pages of. I asked myself the question, what would I be proud of when I am older? And that's something that I work on every day, like visually. And in a nutshell, it's feeling, if you heard of the six human needs,
Mm.
well, so we all have like we all align to these needs in some way. But one of the ones that like really resonates with me is like a sense of significance or importance, and doing something for others. And if you don't mind, I'll just read a few lines of how I actually ended that, and it kind of encapsulates it. And I kind of ended it with this. So I basically just said, to help humans in a similar situation to me to transform their lives, because everyone has the right to do that. Everyone has potential, even if nobody else believes in them. Helping people realize this is a success for me. Maybe they go on to do the same, I'm not sure. But I'd be proud to add value to someone and the world. And that was kind of how I left it, because I'm actually getting goosebumps just reading that, because I think for me, I'm not really sure where this kind of underlying like desire to just help people be the best they can be. I think it came down from me just struggling at school and probably subconsciously thinking that like I probably would never do well, and that kind of burning desire kind of pushed me forwards. And then once I'm kind of doing what we're doing and momentum's building, the confidence is growing, I think there's no reason why other people can't do this, and I think that's probably where it comes from. So that's kind of where I see myself in the future, is doing what I think I have a passion to do, which is, you know, help others become better, basically.
I think honestly that's fantastic, and I think if more people had that mentality to help other people and things like that, we'd be in a much better position, because, you know, people passing on knowledge and experience and everything like that is such a powerful thing. And sometimes you're right, sometimes people just need a little bit of belief in them, a little bit of support and everything like that, and they can achieve great things, especially if they've not been built up when they're younger or whatever. You know, it's a fantastic thing to be able to do. So yeah, well done. I think that's a great aim for you to have, and I think you'll do a great job at it. So brilliant. Yeah, thank you for that. Cool. Okay, well, thanks again for coming on to the podcast. It's been great chatting to you. It's been great getting to know you a little bit, and hopefully we'll stay in touch. That would be fantastic. But where can other people find you?
Yeah, so I've got a website which is akalea.coach. I'm sure you'll drop the link somewhere so that they don't have to figure out how to spell that. And then also I've got an Instagram channel at akalea.kiriakou. And then if you want to follow up my property side of things, it's at Property Couple UK. And we are on Instagram, and we are also on YouTube.
That's fantastic. And I'll make sure all the links are in the description so people can find them. Well, thank you again for coming on. It's been fantastic to have a chat and to get to know you. But for now, that's it. Thank you, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have, please leave me a 5-star review to help other people find it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.